Veterans Day. It's 8/11 on 11/11/22. It was 8/11 when I hit the start button. And then, of course, it became 11/12. And now I was lying, and my lie has been debunked. I've debunked myself in the first few seconds of the video. I'm trying to look cool, but I guess it was a whole minute. I guess I was like, yeah, a minute late, not a second late. Oh, let's see. Anyway, this video is entitled $5,000 of fixes for 1/2 of a cent total. That's 1/10 of a cent each, than my usual spending limit on this 12 Impala. There's another 1 and a 2. And another. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm tired. I shouldn't be making this video. My videos appear to be probably, I don't know what I come across as, appear to be someone who thinks he's wise, who's expounding wisdom or something. But I'm not there. My priority is not on wisdom, and it just ended up that way, that I start making the mistake of preaching wisdom. This video is about non-wisdom and non-doing, to put it clumsily. Less clumsily is to say, to make as little, all movement is relative, so to say be easy is more accurate than doing nothing. If I say less doing the better, that's more accurate. If I say less effort the better, that's more accurate, because all movement is relative. If I say no effort, that's more accurate than doing nothing, but because of the wording, but it's still kind of BS, because it's a very short shot to do nothing. Most people are not calm enough, including myself, to suddenly do nothing. And if we did nothing in the usual understanding of the word, the earth is revolving at I think a mile per second, so a building would go right through us. So that would be extremely karmic to actually suddenly do nothing, quote unquote. But the least effort possible, that's good. That's a better phrasing of it. If I say make no effort, that's just kind of BS-y. I mean, it's optimal, but to someone to say make no effort, to stop making an effort, yeah, that's great. I mean, it's great, but I don't know, to assume you're calm enough and lazy enough to suddenly stop doing that effort thing is, I don't know, I can't judge. I guess eventually it happens to all of us, but slowly. Anyway, this video is about, if it was about wisdom, it'd be about letting go of wisdom. This would be about unlearning. As Yoda would say, you must unlearn what you have learned. I can't even speak, I'm so tired right now. Scam dashing. Thought I'd flop out a quick video. So this video, I'm diverging, I'm interrupting myself. This video is actually about non-wisdom. It would appear to be about wisdom, and what I'm about to say about economizing with car costs. It's not about car smarts and economizing, because one step wiser would be to take it easy until your intuition is good enough to fix this stuff, or to more difficultly and more valuably to diagnose the problem. Fixing it's also difficult, because you have to weave through the incompetence of the engineering of all these cars, and of all the BS you hear on YouTube. You try to get one answer and you get every answer but what you're looking for. But to have the wisdom to weave through all that dumbness and find and prognostify the problem. So tired I can't think of the word. Prognose the problem? To be lazy is to be lazy and be easy. Then you'll have better intuition, you'll have more wisdom. Then you can find whatever problem you come across, which probably won't be any of these 5 things, because if you were looking for something, you probably come across this video with this guy babbling who's not going to address your problem. I'm sorry that's happening, because I know how you feel all too well, because I've been in your shoes all too much, looking for the simplest answer to things on YouTube, like where is the exhaust manifold on the 12 Impala? No one answers whether there is one or not. They all say there's one for sale until you look it up and they go, this does not match your vehicle. At this point, I can only say that maybe the manifold is either inside the engine or a part of the engine, and there isn't one, so to speak. I don't know. Certainly not once you leave the engine, there is no exhaust manifold. But I'm diverging. What was I? I was talking about I know how you feel. I've been there all too well. If you're looking for a specific answer, you won't find it because you're looking for it. By the way, it's your fault that this guy's babbling. Complaining about his own babbling that you're putting up with. It's your fault you came across this video which doesn't answer your question because you're looking for the answer. Or I have been all too well and I don't know all too well. So, this video, on that note, was about letting go of wisdom, letting go of doing, more to the point. Not wisdom, more to the non-point, letting go of wisdom, more to the non-point again, letting go of doing, meaning letting go of trying. And then you have the intuition to fix all these 5, for example, humorous example maybe, these $5,000 of repairs roughly that costed me 1/2 of a cent. This is all true. The previous 25 repairs for, what was that, 0.25 cents or something like that, I forget. They were all 1/10 of a cent anyway. And there were more than 25 repairs for that anyway, but I'll just say I'll round it down. Because I'm not cheap. I am willing to pay 1/10 of a cent for every repair, including parts. You know, even these people, like once in a while I call a mechanic to try to get some advice, and I say, how much is it? I'm just in the mood to pay someone to do it. And because I have a dog that lives next door to me, he's always attacking me when I work. Little dog, but you know, he could bite me in parts that might not feel good. Yeah. And he's very quick and stealthy. He's like a Snoopy. He's like Snoopy the Red Baron. He's very quick. He attacks me out of sheer boredom. He kind of likes me, but he needs action. Yeah. He gets bored. He needs action. So it's very difficult to work on my car. I have to overcome that one in the same way. So once in a while, getting back to the point, I do call a mechanic, and I am willing to pay 1/10 of a cent, but they get all huffy and puffy. Like, for example, the first repair. This was only going to cost me maybe $300 or $400 when the guy got done BSing me, and then I would have to take an Uber there and back and not be able to work for a couple of days, and in the end it'd be over $500. I'm saying all these repairs averaged $1,000 each. Some of them are more than $1,000. I just fixed one an hour or two ago for free, and it took me 10 minutes. That would have cost me about $3,000. But in any event, that's just they total over $5,000, and it costed me. Someone's rubbing their muffler. Yeah, it costed me 1/2 of a cent for these 5 repairs. Why didn't I start babbling about Snoopy attacking? It's a true story also. Oh, because once in a while I call a mechanic. I was talking about that I am willing to pay 1/10 of a cent for repair. Like this guy, I said I had a strange radiator leak. I'm starting the first problem now, but it's also going to talk about I am willing to pay a fair price. But if a mechanic's asking you for more than 1/10 of a cent, you're being ripped off. I should tell you all that, whoever's listening. Most of my videos get no views. Once in a while I get views on them. I don't know exactly I have actually a good idea what the reason is. And I don't want to be a YouTube star, so I'm glad I'm doing that wrong. I'll have to erase some other lousy video I have because I have to keep it at 100 videos. But in any event, I am willing to pay 1/10 of a cent. The guy that I asked him, I said, I have a mysterious leak in my radiator. I'm starting the first problem now. This is a cheap $500 repair. This happened 10 months ago. And how it resolved itself, that I'll tell you very soon, ended up being a true story. It is a true story. All these stories are true. I'm far too lazy to lie. Even though I'm talking a lot, I'm far too lazy to lie. Generally speaking, I don't lie unless it'll save someone from getting their feelings hurt. Maybe save me from getting attacked when I have to get by too much work. Or I could lose. That usually happens. So the first repair was a mysterious radiator leak around here. I should get my flashlight, shouldn't I? Doesn't matter. I saw little droplets on the bottom of the bottom part of the belt, little orange droplets, and I said, which orange? I saw them by accident. I was underneath the car replacing a knock sensor. I saw these orange droplets. I said, what's orange? The power steering, this, that, the other. I said, wait a minute, Dextron's orange. So it looks like I have a mysterious radiator leak, and it appears to be near the thermostat, but not at the thermostat, to the left of the thermostat, where there was a right angle hose or something. Leak on the thermostat, and I didn't feel like fixing it, and so I called a mechanic, and I said that day I didn't feel like working. I said, maybe it's easier to go to a mechanic. That's the whole idea. It could be easier if you're a master of psychology. It could be easier to go to a mechanic. I'm not. Too busy multitasking, too busy for my work. Although, as much as I'm talking, I'll stop talking probably when this video is over. Hopefully pretty soon. So, I said on that day, maybe it's easier to go to a mechanic. I called the guy, I said, hi, how much is it? I have a mysterious leak, just what I was describing you. And he goes, well, tell you what, you can make an appointment, you come on over and we'll take a look at it for you. And like, we'll take a look. I said, how much will it cost for you to take a look and diagnose it? And he goes, well, you're probably looking at a minimum of $250. And I said, well, I don't know, man. I like to keep my repairs to the within the 1/10 of a cent range. You said, are you being funny with me? What the hell are you talking about? I'm not talking about anything. I didn't say I wouldn't pay you a profit margin. I would pay you a 900% profit margin. I would be willing to pay you an entire. I would be willing to pay you an entire penny. I'm not cheap, you know. And the guy said something rude, and he said, "The hell with you, man." He hung up on me, and he hung up on me. He got all offended because I wouldn't help him to rip me off. I was going to pay him 10 times as much as it would have costed me to fix it. Actually, infinity times as much, but I didn't know that at the time. I already bought 2 quarts. That's what it was. I was going to try to get a radiator plus while I was at it. That's part of the reason that I'm calling a radiator. I'm going to get a Dextron plus while I was at it. I figured he had to. I don't know the equipment to push it through the radiator. But he probably would have made a leak and said there was a leak. But I took my chance that time, and I said, how much was it? And he got mad that I offered him like a 900% profit. And he said, man, the hell with you, have a nice day, hung up on me, whatever. I don't know what he got so huffy-puffy for. I was helping him rip me off, charged me 10 times as much as it would have costed. But okay, fine with me. I said, okay, take it easy, whatever. I hung up, and then I said, let me just wait and see what happened. I kept putting a big rectangular bucket I had under the car right where it was leaking when I parked the car. And there was a tiny puddle one day, and the next day it was a little bit smaller. And after, this is a true story. I said it would be a true story anyways. I'm not exactly saying what I said about mechanic is true. I don't know, give myself a little flair of it. But in any event, this is the true story though. This is actually true, like I said it would be. The puddle in the bucket got smaller and smaller each day for about a week, and each day I would pick up the bucket and make sure it was clear. And pour it back in the radiator, wherever that is, I forget, over there. And then it just stopped leaking for no reason. There was no more Dextron or anything else leaking where it was. It was on the chassis, or whatever the thing is called, the chassis these days, down beneath all this. And there was no more in the bucket, no more dripping, no more drop hanging anywhere. And it totally stopped. That was 10 months ago, driving for Scam Dash for 7 hours a day. I don't drive too much because I'm a lazy Scam Dash driver, but 50, 75 miles a day, every day for, it was October or September. What's that, a couple hundred days, maybe 10,000 miles. It never ever leaked again, out of nowhere. Just out of my pure laziness to not run a mechanic and stuff like that. And it fixed itself, and that was, maybe it wore out the bucket, a 1/10 of a cent worth of plastic wear and tear from the Dextron dripping on there and me pouring it out. So I'll call that a 1/10 of a cent. That was the first repair. Now why did I get on this subject? Well, I was saying I'm not cheap. I am willing to pay a mechanic, but you usually want to get the best of people. It's just business, you know? And not introduce me to the first repair, which I just told you was. Just by pure easy vibes, I got lucky, and the thing, I don't know what was leaking, but it bent back, and somehow maybe the gobbly goo of the antifreeze fixed its own self and it stopped leaking. and that was pretty much a true story. See, that's a true story. 4 more fixes coming up to $5,000 through. Finally, I can get on with this video. Babbling for 15 minutes to get to this. Maybe I'll say in the title description, I stopped babbling in 15 minutes. So since it's past 15 minutes, I'll say the first leak. I'll say it again in case anyone clicks on after 15 minutes. The first repair was a radiator leak, which I was going to get charged for costly because not having a car for a week forever. Probably several $100s for, and it just fixed itself and it's complete. And whoever starts listening in 15 minutes, that's the only one that fixed itself. You probably don't believe me, but it's actually true. Like the whole bit back, it got clogged up with deck on and stuff. Fixed itself just by me being mellow enough not to jump in the panic. I know, don't expect that. 4 more repairs. They total $5,000. Next thing is this. 10 months later, not at all during the 10 months. I did check and notice. 10 months later, I started leaking the temperature started going up and started leaking antifreeze. Where I thought was the drain plug down there, which I can't, if I shine my flashlight, you'd know where it was. But you've probably seen many YouTube videos that do show where the drain plug is. Turns out, I went and got a drain plug which I can return for $12 to Amazon. Turns out, the drain plug was not leaking. It was something hidden where the fan cover guard wraps around the radiator. I should really get my glasses. It is a horrible video, isn't it? Might as well. Oh, humbug. Great. Let's see what I'm looking at. There's a drain plug. I got one from Amazon for $12, but it turned out it was leaking from the thing on. You know what's hard about looking for a phone camera? It's 3. You can't look at the actual thing because you're looking through the camera to see what the camera's seeing. That really sucks. I can see it so easy when I'm not looking through the camera. Look at that. Oh, I know how to point the camera at something. There's the drain plug again because I'm not looking for it. Oh, this is taking too long. Damn it. Where the fan housing wraps around the radiator, a big plastic thing with one bolt through it. It was leaking underneath that, dripping onto the radiator, and you wouldn't see it leaking while it was running. When you stopped running, it would drip up and land exactly where the drain plug. There. There's a circle on the bottom of the frame where the drain plug goes like that, and then the drain plug drains directly through that circle in the center of itself when you're underneath it with a bucket, but it would drip from the radiator when the engine's off straight onto the drain plug and wrapped around the drain plug and went on that circle and then wrapped around that circle and went through the center hole somehow, or dribbled sideways to the center hole and then straight down. So it looked like it was coming out of the center hole from the drain plug. I thought I needed a drain plug, I didn't. That's returnable. Then I got a radiator. Then I said, okay, it's leaking from the radiator. I could fix it with, I would say clear weld, water weld. JB water weld's a better bet than JB radiator fix, because JB radiator fix dries before you can put it on. And that's why half the people that use it say it doesn't work, because it's very hard to apply correctly before it completely dries. It starts burning your hands and gets hard and you can't apply it. The JB water weld is probably not as good, but much better to apply. And so I took for that, but I didn't do either. I got a new radiator, found one super cheap for $87. Probably not. What's that word? Probably not. Damn, I'm so tired. What is that word? Probably not. OEM? Is that just the word? Yeah, probably. So, it's 32 degrees, by the way. This one getting back in the car. Oh, it's so pleasant in here. Gone from 32 degrees to 75 degrees. Just like that. What was I babbling about? I got one for $87 somewhere on the internet, and then I called the people right back after I bought it. I said, I have to say, maybe I should return this. It looks different than all the other radiators. And they go, it's the same radiator. What's your car? I go, 12 Impala. They go, that does fit your car. I go, it really looks totally different. The hose mounts are different. Finally, I go, well, we've already sent it to you, but you don't have to pay. We'll refund you the money. You don't have to send it back. I'm like, are you sure? And they go, yeah. And then I realized that their picture of it was upside down. And I said, hey, listen, I figured out what's wrong. Your pictures of all your radiators are upside down. It's true. They already gave me the money for free, but since they were so cool to me, I said, all your radiators upside down, I figured it out just now. This is like a day later. I said, if you make them right side up, you're probably missing certain buyers because they look at it and say it looks different. If you turn your pictures around to right side up, then you might get more buyers because you guys got great prices and you're really cool. But anyway, they sent it to me for free, and I put it in, and I could babble on about how to put in a radio, but there's already videos on that. I discovered certain things. I remembered not to push in on the fins because they bend, because that makes it have less cooling ability. There is one bolt that looks like it's the bolt for the oil, for the transmission oil that goes to the transmission condenser in front of the radiator, but it's not. It is a hose. It's the bolt for the hose with the AC condition. And if you try to even unbolt the mount for it, AC fluid starts splashing out of that really quick and suddenly. Don't know if I blinded myself or anything, got anything, cancer, brain damage, or what, I don't know. A few droplets could have gotten my eye or something. I don't know. It would have been tiny droplets. I didn't have any irritation, but maybe not. I don't know. But don't make the same stupid mistake I did. I should show you where that is in this video, shouldn't I? Just in case anyone's just watching it to actually learn some mechanic stuff. I just have to get out in the cold again. Maybe. Yes, no one, I watched a few videos, even though I've done radios before, I watched a few videos on how to do it to remind myself and familiarize myself with this car. That thing right there. You guys, make this a spotlight. Shine it on that without moving it, and then just point this camera where the light is. That's how you can use it. It's too bright, man. Can't make this light any brighter. It's $12 light from it. That thing, it looks like it's got one bolt that mounts it. Let me point to the two bolts. Ooh, looks like one of them's not tight. How's that possible? I don't get it. But I did tighten it. No, it's those things. Those two things of metal that are toward the bolt heads near each other. One of them looks like it's just made to attach the bolt to itself. It doesn't look like the one that has the hose screw. It looks like one. It doesn't have a hose screw. It's got a bolt head and just a bolt behind it. I mean, it does have a hose behind it. Anyway, it didn't look like it did. I started loosening it, and a bunch of antifreeze kind of blew up out of me. No one says on the YouTube video, be careful not to loosen them. The other two hoses are these hoses. And you'll see that on all the YouTube videos. They go into the radiator and they just punch right in. It's difficult to get the clip off. It's difficult to get the radiator hose off. That's just the normal stuff you see on all the videos. So be wary of that. For one thing, be wary of touching pins just in case anyone doesn't know that because they get bent. That thing, I'm getting good at this. You point the light at it, and then you shine where the light is. That clip I thought I had to remove, and I crushed it starting to remove it, although it's still attached. Because it's very difficult to get to that hose clamp back there. Of course, I'm not saying I meddled with that hose clamp, because that would mean I bought a new lower radiator hose, and that wouldn't be within my 1/10 of a cent spending limit. So I'm not saying I bought another hose or another hose here. You can't prove that. I might not have done that. I'm still spending 1/10 of a cent. If I did spend $30 and $37 on one and $32 on another, I would have made it back the next night driving Scam Dash, just like working extra as a matter of principle. But I'm not saying I did that. You can't prove it. far as getting off these clamps, very difficult to get them off. Some of them, each person on YouTube has a problem with a different clamp. They say buy a hose clamp removal tool. One guy uses the remote hose clamp removal tool. This does that switch. Because that switch, so weird. One way goes the other way when you look at it. That switch is right in the way of it. And even if you don't get rid of that switch, all you do, it's very hard to remove that hose clamp. What I did, this is the kind of creativity you have to use. Like Scotty Kilmer had a video that said, I fixed the car with this spoon, with one spoon. I said it's not the spoon that bends, it's your mind. I took a matrix phrase. Your mind's got to bend when you figure out where it's the car. There's no way to fit a crescent wrench, a regular wrench, or this wrench, adjustable wrench, a monkey wrench, anything to get to this hose clamp. It looks like there is, but there's a lot of things in the way that you can't see in this video. You see how the switch is right above it? That's the least of the problems. Behind it's a big tube in the way. That metal hose is in the way. There's things in the way over here, not just the air box. There are things in the way in every way. I tried removing that hose back there, you see it? I removed it. The light's not too bright. It didn't help. I still couldn't fit a wrench anyway, and what I eventually ended up doing, just to show you the kind of creativity you have to use, I took a big pair of lone plier crescent wrench. I put it through. It could only get to one side of the spring clamp. That's what they're called. And I turned it. I pushed it as far as I could go, and I turned the whole crescent wrench, pushed forward on one side of the spring till it got close to the other side of the spring. And I held this pliers with my left hand. With my right hand, I took another pair of regular Irwin pliers that were curved just enough to get flat front. Then I pinched the thing together, and I go around and I move the spring clamp forward off the end of the hose, and then I found the way to pull the hose. But you can't say that I did that because I just said I didn't bother to show you. It's 1/10%. In any event, I didn't spend any money on radiator fluid because I hadn't bought it from else. I was going to see that guy 10 minutes ago with that thing that fixes itself. And yeah, still 1/10%. So what was things that I didn't see said was watch out for that metal clip with the. It's actually got air conditioner fluid in it. It looks like the one with the transmission oil. Don't try to unbolt it to get it out of the way of the radiator. What you do for the radiator is you slowly weave it underneath that thing. See how it wraps around the radiator? There's no shortcut I found. You gotta literally, a plastic thing is the radiator, now the radiator body. You gotta slowly just weave that thing over that plastic and it's tricky. One thing is watch out for the fins, 2 is watch out for that. 3 is be very creative to get hose clamps off if you're going that route. 4, if you drain the radiator fluid from the drain cock, it's still a bunch of it's going to come out of that hose down there anyway, so move the bucket there and be wary when you take that hose off. 5, taking the hose off is very difficult, requires some savvy. One way to do it is you bend the hose off if you're going to get a new hose. You can use the hose as leverage to take itself off. 6, to put another hose on, you put something that's gliding, like for example, WD-40 with silicone. It's not electrically conductive, it's not hard on rubber, like rubber hoses, or plastic. It's good for getting plastic clips off and everything. 7 this, 8 that. To put these things together, each thing slides over the other one. The radiator slides over the condenser. The radiator higher than the condenser goes chink chink and slides over on both sides. Then this thing is bigger than the radiator, and well, this thing goes higher than the radiator and slides down the radiator, and there's a clip on both sides. So clipping everything together without bumping into wires or anything, crushing anything or touching the radiator pin requires some savvy. Then again, I looked up how much it cost to replace the radiator. It was something like roughly $19 or $50, and I did it for 1/10%, except for spending hypothetically $31 and $37 in hoses and making the money back that night. Because I was in a good mood because I was in hose. Still makes great. So it was still a 1/10%. A free radiator, I had antifreeze already there. The way to clean the antifreeze and take off into a bucket. This is another thing I discovered that I didn't see on the internet. I'm not going to say I bought a food strainer because that would have costed $12 or $13 and be beyond my spending limit. But it is possible that I found 50 cents on the ground or 75 cents on the ground, went to a hardware store and got a paint strainer, which is just a small nylon mesh thing you can wrap around a bucket And then when you drain the radiator fluid, you can eventually, when you drain all of it or most of it, when you're ready to put it back in, you can pour it from one bucket through the paint strainer, wrapped around the top of the bucket into the other bucket, or vice versa, put the paint strainer on the next bucket. A couple times maybe, and then it's well cleaned and easy to pour, because a coffee filter will take forever. I'm not going to say I tried a coffee filter. Well, I'll say if I had a free one and maybe I tried it, and it would have taken forever. Just about forever. A cowper. Yeah, 4 billion years it would have taken. Each coffee cup full of Dextron would have taken about half an hour, and a lot of coffee cups of Dextron for 3 gallons of Dextron. But the paint strainer is super quick and it works fine. There are some tips that I don't think I've heard on YouTube about changing the radiator for 1/10 of a cent. Oh, that's the second repair. Good grief. Gotta knock off these others pretty quick. It's 32 degrees out here. Not long thereafter, I got a code P062 and P0017. P062 means a problem with the wiring or something that goes to the throttle body, which is hidden right behind the top of that beauty cover, as Scott Fulmer calls it. And, oh, by the way, when you change your radiator, if you take the map sensor off and it's not connected to that thing, if you have to unplug it for this or that reason, you might want to put it in a plastic lunch bag and zip the lunch bag out, wrap electrical tape on it while you do all the other work so it doesn't get dusted up. A touchy electrical device, a map sensor. Why am I babbling about a map sensor? P0062 is questionable wiring or signal to the throttle body. The way I fixed it is I didn't do anything for a while. I went for a drive because I hadn't been driving for a little while, and it sorted itself out. After that, a P0017, which could mean many, many different things. It could mean your oil is sludgy. You change your PTV valve, change your oil, make sure your oil is full. It could mean your camshaft sensor, camshaft actuators are bad. Your long camshaft actuators are bad. Your camshaft sensors are bad. It could mean a lot of things. It could just mean put that, whatchamacallit, that maroon bottle of oil fixture in there and make your oil less sludgy. Each thing affects the speed of the camshaft. P0017 means the speed relationship between the 17 is this camshaft back here. This is not on YouTube at all. I mean, hardly at all. People describe it so poorly. They say bank 1 section B. No one says what section B is, and finally they say it's the exhaust side. Then I asked a friend, I go, what's the exhaust bias side? And he goes, wherever your exhaust manifold is. And then I find out there's pretty much almost no exhaust manifold on here. But that's say these two things are bank 1 on a 12, 13, 14 Impala, at least 12 and 13 at least. These two hobgoblins, these two cams underneath the beauty cover are bank 2. So my thing was bank 2 sensor section B. Some people on the internet were saying it was bank 1. No, bank 1 section D is where my thing was. Some people on the internet for a while were saying bank 2, but everything you hear on the internet is so often wrong, including YouTube. P0017 is bank 1, which are these two. I don't know what I said before, it might have been wrong just now, but that's bank 1, this is bank 2. Bank 1, section B, which no one says what it is, the exhaust side, and there's not much of a manifold to be found anywhere unless it's like inside the engine, which might be the case. So, that error code is a discrepancy in speed between the exhaust camshaft and here, the intake camshaft. Beneath this cover is the intake manifold, by the way, but there's intake camshaft over here too and exhaust over here. Each exhaust, I guess, is on the camshaft on the exhaust side, which is in this engine is the outer side. Since it's bank 1, section B means exhaust, I guess. That's bank, this is bank 1, section B, exhaust side over here. So, the reason I'm babbling about this is because P0017 sometimes, in this case it was this, is the easiest fix, camshaft sensor. I already had 4 of these because I was planning to rebuild this whole part of the engine. Didn't cost me anything. That's it right there. People see all these videos on YouTube about how hard it is to get to, and they want $100 if the mechanic to fix each one. There's 4 of them. Good grief. One's there. One's there. One's there. To get to that one, you do have to kind of take this beauty cover off and remove this power steering pole, which is really easy to do. 3 little 10 millimeter bolts. Kind of easy. The last one is down there. How do I get this? How do I get the camera to see it? Light's on it right now, but I can't see the light. There. Far left from our point of view, looking at from the passenger fender. You can easily see it. It's right underneath that hose. You can even bend that hose enough to get to it. Earlier today, I replaced this camshaft sensor in about 10 minutes, and that was the problem. That costed me, I don't know, 1/10 of a cent, just because I needed to steal a napkin to dry the oil off my hands. It takes some savvy. You have to take the bolt parts and everything. But here's the thing: if I took it to a mechanic, they would have said, "Well, we have to diagnose the discrepancy between the camshaft and the blah blah blah, and this and that, and you might need a timing chain, you might need this and that," and they would have charged me $700, $800, $1,000. That they would have charged me like $1 million, and it was free, and it took 10 minutes. That's another 1/10 of a cent. In this case, it was a camshaft sensor. Could be a lot of things. I just tried the easiest thing first and use some intuition and stuff like that. Alright, what's next? I have to knock down 2 more. If I took it to a mechanic, they also would have said, you need a timing chain. And that would have been that whole thing that I'm trying to do in the future, that I got all the parts for. That would have cost me at a mechanic like $3,000. It didn't though. It cost me, but they would say all that timing chain stuff for the P0017. And that would have been there for a month, and they would have blah blah blah. They would have taken all that stuff. I wonder if I can get back in the time now. Hold on here. Yeah, that would have cost me $1,500, $2,000, $3,000 to do that. But it was 10 minutes and 1/10 of a cent. That's the next one. The fifth one. Well, to fix the P0017, I did, and not only did it fix the code, both codes. One just went away when I put some better gas in it and gave it some time to go for a while. That was totally free. This thing was, in my case, was totally free, but I got all 4 of those camshaft sensors for $45 on the internet. So the camshaft sensor actually cost me like $12, but I had already bought it all with money I got for free also from a couple people kind of driving their cars in my car when I was parked. They chose to use their insurance, and I tried to give them a cheaper price. They said, I'll just put on the insurance. All my parts were free, so that $10 was free. But anyway, I was going to put that on eventually anyway, so it's free, completely free, even within the house. Maybe I did a little early, so it's a 1/10 of a cent of wear and tear, and that's what it cost me. 1/10 of a cent. If I took it to the mechanic, said, for one thing, I got this code P0017. For another thing, I've had for quite a while, and I just realized that was what caused it. A wavy idle, every like 5 minutes, the engine idle will go. It was the computer adapting to the discrepancy of speed between, well, in this case, between this exhaust camshaft and this intake camshaft. Bank 1, Section B, from what I hear on the internet, who knows it's true, and probably Section A for the intake camshaft. Doesn't have to be under the intake manifold, but this is another intake camshaft. The manifold ends about right here. But this is another intake camshaft, I believe, and this is probably another exhaust camshaft. So that fixed that problem as well. That's another $500 problem. If you try to get a new exhaust manifold, apparently there is none. No one says it on the internet. It appears to go straight from the engine. Unless there's a manifold inside the engine, that's the manifold right there. But you try to find the manifold, it never pops up on the internet. There's the catalytic converter. The rest is all exhaust. Same thing on the other side. Maybe there is no manifold, so to speak, on this car. If you try to get someone to fix their exhaust manifold, another $500-700, but I won't include that on the list of stuff. One thing it would have cost you $700, $1,000 to diagnose this P0017. Another thing is if they start lying to you and say that it was the timing chain, that would have cost $3,000. The next thing is, if you're looking for the exhaust manifold, which I was once told trying not to recently, the guy I know told me that find the exhaust manifold to figure out which side is which side is the exhaust side. That's what they said. Someone finally said on the internet.
section B is the exhaust side. So which one's the exhaust side? And he goes, look for the manifold. Got a mechanic try to find a manifold for you. That's another $500 BS dollars. But I won't include that in the list. But I'll include that partially, since they all lie about it, whether or not this car has a manifold. It's hard to find if there is one. Another thing is these plugs that I crush. Like Carsport up there, no one knows what this plug is. I've asked every auto store, they can't figure it out. That blue plug right there, it's still connected, but I crushed the clip. And these plugs, I was meddling with all of them. I might have replaced a couple of these things. Not being at my best before I figured out this was the right one, the exhaust side B. But it doesn't matter, I had them all sitting around anyway. I might have crushed a lot of the levers, and most of them snapped back together. One I had to tape back together, hypothetically, if I was dumb enough to go to the wrong plug first on not my best day. But the point is, each one of those plugs is 50, 60, 70, 80, 85, 90 plus shipping, who knows what, for one of those plugs. So, try to get the exhaust sensor and those plugs. One second. Whew. Man, it's so much warmer in here. Whiz. Every single plug on these years of Impala are like $50, and they all break when you try to push the lever in the little clips. Turns out the blue clip have a lever, a release lever, and a blue clip, so the release lever doesn't accidentally get pushed somehow, so the plug can come undone. So they have a double reinforced, double negative, whatever it's called, securing system. Turns out all a plug is something that connects two wires to two wires. You don't need a plug at all. As far as the blue clip, that's what I crushed on most of these things, is the blue clip. That thing kind of gets crushed when you push it out. I pushed it out carefully and directly and everything. I sprayed it with WD-40 silicone, but they just get crushed if they're not in good shape when you try to push them out. Well, once you push it out, if you want the double reassured thing that the clip lever won't be pushed and the clip won't unplug, one thing is you just put 2 drops of silicone in the plug and plug it together, or something like that on the sides of it where there's no, where there's no electrical connection, or just snap it together with the lever part, or do that and electrical tape it together, whatever. But if you wanna go the whole good route, snap it together, and then when you want to push and you don't have the blue clip anymore because it gets crushed, just put a paper clip through there. Now, a paper clip might cost more than 1/10 of a cent, but you can find them on the ground. And if you want to be all clean, you could clean it up with alcohol or something. And that saves you $50. But there are a million switches like that in this car. And after you do like 25 repairs like I have, and maybe you break like 20 of those clips, well, that's 20 times $50. Maybe on the internet you can get them for $30 or something. $25, but 20 times $25 is $400. When the internet gets done wasting your time going to pick them up, all that stuff, it's $500. If you buy them at the auto store, if time is short, you need them soon, that would be $1,000. Or if you buy some of them at the auto store, that's $750. If you go looking for an exhaust manifold because people think there is one, someone will rip you off there too, and that ends up being $1,000. All those little parts, all of which are useless or easily circumvented, I should say straight invented because they're circumventing things, they are easily replaceable with paper clips, or just run the wires without the switch, and that comes to $1,000. And by the way, if anyone ever gets smart enough to invent the same things that you see that you crimp on each side and they connect a wire to another wire, if anyone ever just has enough smarts, and that means you can steal this idea, because you'd be like a multi-gazillionaire, and you owe me 1% of your multi-gazillions, because I'm giving you the idea, whoever you are. Those things that crimp 2 wires together in a straight line, if you have 2 of those attached to each other, or 3 in the case of these plugs up here that I was just babbling about, the camshaft sensor plugs, they're a 3-wire connector. If you just get those little crimp connectors with 3 of them or 2 of them connected together,
and then you crimp the wire, the open-ended wire on each end like you do, but in the middle of the whole thing is a switch, which either connects the whole thing, the 3 wires on one side, the 0 wires on the other side, together, or separates them. Then you have your own universal triple wire switch or double wire switch, and you can turn it off and on if you want, and you can, whatever you have to do to take rid of the switch, you can cut the switch out because the switch is should only be like $1 when they finally mass produce them. Better than $50. A lot of people will buy that. But in the meantime, you can bypass the switch entirely just by connecting wires. You can script the clip with a paper clip. All these things cost 1/10 of a cent. And so that is the last $1,000 fix, totaling $5,000 worth of fixes for 1/2 of a cent. By the way, when I fixed that thing earlier tonight for free in 10 minutes, that's true, on the way to work when it was freezing out, when I finally sorted through the BS on YouTube and figured out which plug it was, which sensor switch it was, I fixed that thing like as I described in 10 minutes. It took some creativity, etc., but I did it. And when I did it, this is P0017 is a permanent code. There's ways to get the car to shut off the permanent code, but I didn't even have to do that. It fixed itself. But I noticed my idle waiver, which I've had for several months, quite a while, is synonymous with the discontinuity, incongruity between camshaft exhausts, bank 1B, and camshaft intake, bank 1A, I guess. Try to look these things up on YouTube. You get nothing but the run around, people babbling about anything but what we asked. But it fixed my idle problem. I've been sitting in this car for a half hour or whatever. It's not wavering anymore. And that would have cost me $500, $600, $700 to fix that too. I think I said that before. But it totals $5,000, 1/2 of a cent. And this video is not really about fixing your car exactly. It's about what I said in the beginning. What I will tell people to skip. Maybe I shouldn't tell them. I'll just say the first 15 seconds is babble and let people decide for themselves. What am I talking about? I don't know. Just that fixing that switch. I can tell that it fixed the problem because it fixed the idle, the wavy idle, which has been a problem for a while, even though I didn't have any codes. So that's probably what was eventually setting off that code. So it fixed the code and the wavy idle, either one of which would have been $700 if they didn't rip me off to the whole chiming chain rebuild for $3,000. And it was all 1/2 a cent.